The Magicians Podcast is brought to you in proud association with the Magic Circle, Alakazam Magic, and Gigio.
I don't think there are words for it. I think we couldn't even look each other in the eye for the next sort of 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yo, it's my life, my time, my rights, my rhymes, my grind, my struggle, hustle, sweat in my blood too. I'm ready to smell fear, I smell a lot. My competitors fled scared, cause they smelled I was hot. I want it all, excess, the sex, much success, stress us. I want it all, no less, so come on.
You're listening to the Magicians Podcast, free every Friday on iTunes, Podbean and Stitcher. Hello everybody, welcome to the show. My name is Richard Young, I am your host. If you don't follow us on Twitter, please do it now. We are at Magician Podcast, or you can give our Facebook page a like. We are facebook.com/Magicians Podcast. This week is a really special week here on the podcast. The double act Barry and Stuart are here this week in a fantastic pair of interviews. That's right, it's a double bill week here on the Magicians Podcast feed. You do not want to miss the other episode which is available on the feed today. It's episode 71 with Stuart. We thought it would be really interesting to interview them both individually. There are many interviews available of them talking together. Well, today you'll get to know them both individually. So here we go, let's get going. Sit back, relax and enjoy. Well, if you listen to both of these interviews, you're about to enjoy over 2 hours in the company of one of the most creative double acts on the planet, Barry and Stuart. This episode is with Barry Jones. So I am sat here with Barry of Barry and Stuart, and it's always nice to meet someone from a double act. And I think, sometimes with double acts there's a little bit of competitiveness. Well, I'm going to extend the hand of friendship, Barry, if that's all right.
Okay.
I bought you a little gift.
You have? Okay.
Yeah, I've got it here. Here we go. Oh, this is the type of gift that I would want. If it's a Krispy Kreme donut for you.
Krispy Kreme donut.
There we go.
Well, thanks. So is Stuart going to get something better, or are you?
Well, I'll see if they have to do some sort of donut shipping or something. But also, I've spared no expense there. That's the one with the jam in. So,
the one with the jam?
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I won't eat now, otherwise it would be sort of a very muffled interview.
No, that's fine. But yeah, there we go. Thanks so much for doing this, by the way.
Well, thanks for having me.
Genuinely appreciate it.
It's quite exciting and unusual to get to be talking for a bit longer than just the 5 minutes you get when you're talking to a journalist. I don't actually have to promote any thing currently, so that's freeing. And this will be the first time I think I've actually had an interview without Stuart.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I explained in the introduction, but it's really special to get to talk to you both individually, and I think it's going to be totally unique as a project for me to talk to a double act separately and get the dirt on each of you individually. Yeah. That's the plan. So,
and I like the long form that you get to do in a podcast, so I think it should be a cathartic experience.
I hope so. Therapeutic, some people have said, actually, talking to me. Yeah. So, some people are quite depressed normally when they get to the end of these podcasts. We'll see how you do today. So.
Start out depressed and then get worse.
Absolutely. Hey, you and I have something in common, which I'm going to, basically, let's be honest, you're a lot more successful than me, alright? So I'm going to use the fact that you like something to make people realise I'm not stupid. Okay. You like professional wrestling, don't you?
I'm a huge fan of wrestling.
And I like wrestling too. See, if Barry likes it, then it's fine to like wrestling. Is that true?
Okay, I wouldn't take it that far, but I like it. Whether or not you like it is your own prerogative, but yeah.
Can I ask a question? Why do you like it?
I don't know why I like it. I mean, clearly I find it entertaining, but I do think there's a lot of crossover between the world of wrestling and the world of magic. I mean, these are guys who, having to, maybe not so much now, but certainly back in the sort of early 90s, they were protecting secrets, and I don't think it's the same nowadays because the internet has really just made everything all so open. But they're protecting secrets. They have all these kind of special sleights, I suppose you would say it is, in order to make a move look like it's having more impact on the opponent than it truly is. And they do instant cueing with each other on stage or in the ring. So they'll be whispering to each other what the next couple of moves are going to be. And just Yeah, I just think it's very, very spookily similar to Magick.
Yeah, I've said this once before, actually, that we both do the same thing. We both try and make something that's fake look real, don't we? So, I think it's just so. I'm so pleased you like it, and there you go, we're bonding already. So, I'm going to go right back to the start, actually, if that's okay. You were born in Aberdeen.
That's right.
Grew up in Scotland.
Uh-huh.
And when did you and Stuart meet? Because I saw your Edinburgh show a few years ago, and there was some great footage of you two as kids in the show that I remember. I think on the local news or something, wasn't it? So you did meet quite young, didn't you? When was it exactly?
Yeah, the footage that you saw actually was before we'd met each other, I think. And we actually met when I was about 15. I joined a Magic club, and I thought I was really excited. It was the Aberdeen Magical Society. You normally had to be 18 to get in, and I was only 15, so I thought I'm so special. I turned up there, and there was already this other guy who was not 18 yet, and that was Stuart, who was sitting at the other end of the room wearing a yellow suit. And rather than instantly bond with each other, we just kind of didn't really bond at all. Normally in press interviews we'll say we didn't like each other. That's not entirely true. We just didn't really. I think maybe we were a little bit threatened by each other because we both prided ourselves on being unique, and to see someone else who was spookily similar to the way you were was a bit threatening to sort of one's ego. And weirdly, we didn't join individually though. We both joined as double acts. We were both in different double acts back then, and as Stuart will point out, the funny thing is I was the short one in my double act and he was the tall one in this double act, because the guy I was working with, he was 6'6". Maybe taller.
How tall are you? You're a big guy.
I'm 6'2".
6'2", right? Yeah.
And Stuart was working with a guy who was a bit shorter than him. But both those guys that we were working with, they liked Magic a lot, but I don't think they wanted to pursue it in the way we both did.
So naturally, the thing that happens, you don't become a double act straight away, do you? You just sort of start bonding just over Magic initially? Or?
Yeah, I went to university in London, and Stuart was still studying in Aberdeen. And we stayed in contact, and we were speaking a lot about how we felt Magic should be presented to audiences, and realised that really we actually felt a lot of the same things. And I guess because we were no longer in the same time, we didn't feel threatened by each other, and we started sharing material because I felt like it was fine for him to do anything I was doing in Aberdeen and vice versa. And it was kind of bonded through being apart, really. And it wasn't until one summer, I think Stuart had just graduated, and I had finished my first year of university, and I was just back home. We decided just to film some stuff together because we'd sort of had some ideas, and we just made a video which was on video CD back then, because you couldn't even distribute it on YouTube and stuff like that. So we had some video CDs copied, and we just handed them out to friends saying, here's our latest thing, what do you think of it? And it was coincidence that that same week, Magic Week, had an advert on saying they're looking for magicians to be part of this sort of weird late night Channel 4 show. We didn't realise they were looking for a double act, and I think this was Objective Productions, and I think Anthony Owen and Andrew O'Connor, I think they actually had intended just to find two people and then put them together. So it was kind of fortunate that we arrived kind of as a package, as it were. We didn't really intend to be a double act back at the beginning. It just kind of happened, I suppose.
I was going to ask you about this video because there's another interview of Andrew O'Connor, my colleague Pete Wardell, who created a project a couple of years ago called The Magic State of Mind. He interviewed Andrew, and in the interview, Andrew describes you guys sending him a video, and he just says, they just sent us a 3-minute video that was really interesting, and that's how... I've always wanted to know what the content of that video was. Can you share it at all?
Yeah, it was... To be honest, a lot of the stuff became... We almost reshot it for our first TV series, Magick, spelled with a K.
Yeah.
And so I was busking on the streets of Aberdeen, but doing the knife through arm routine that we do sort of to violin music. Doing that as a solo piece in the video. Stuart was this character that we called Mantis Man, and he just was this sort of, I guess the only way to describe it is he was like a stage manipulator that had just gone beyond the next level of reality. He wore two sports bottle tops in his eyes, and would just speak in these really short sort of aphorisms, I suppose, that meant absolutely nothing, and then he would just do some backpan productions or whatever, and we just would intercut these in between other sketches, and what else happened? I went and did some magic in a graveyard, did some goths, and then got beaten up. I can't really remember. It was sort of just a lot of weird stuff. And we were influenced by Jam, which is a program by Chris Morris. And I remember we just thought, just for the sake of it, we would put on loads of these filters that you could do on these video editing programs. So we'd film things in sort of like negative, put the negative effect on it, so everything was the inverse colour, and slow down footage. Oh, we did backwards stuff as well on this, which became a feature of the show. We'd film stuff. We'd have to work out how would you do something so that when you reverse the footage, it sort of looks like it's being played forwards, but has that weird quality about it where things might be falling up the way. But yeah, and I had to learn how to speak backwards, and so that it kind of was legible when you would reverse it.
Yeah. You've jogged my memory there with another double act who do another routine. Penn and Teller famously do their upside down thing. Were they an influence on you in the early stages?
Absolutely. I was a huge fan of Penn and Teller. I think more of an influence when we were starting, it was probably Simon Drake, actually. Oh, right. Secret Cabaret, I thought, and probably still think, was one of the best magic shows that had ever been made. And I just loved the you do little pieces that had narratives, I guess, and there'd always be like a dark twist to them, and we loved that kind of thing. And I'd say Penn and Teller were more of an influence when we actually started working live, because we were doing these videos and the TV stuff before we really had a live act, and we didn't really know how on earth to translate that stuff to the stage, especially because we started working out in comedy clubs, because we didn't know where else can you do this stuff. And I think that's when the Penn and Teller influence was maybe a bit stronger, just because that was how we worked out how to be two people on stage.
Yeah, it is interesting looking at the timeline of your careers, because your first TV series, Magick with a K, was 2003. Your first Edinburgh show was like 2008 or something, wasn't it? So you've sort of do a lot of things in reverse. Can I ask, when you sort of are trying, you're pitching Magick, I assume Objective were doing it for you. You have a very clear vision in your head what that was, or was that Andrew and Objective taking a bit more of a control over it? I'm interested to know in those early stages, what I'm really getting at is, were you and Stuart really in control of that show in the early stages, or was it more Objective?
I think we had more control on that first show, Magick, than we ever had in our career.
Wow.
I think AOC really trusted us and just felt like, I think these guys have something and I'm just going to let them do it. Also, the commissioner at Channel 4, she absolutely just thought, okay, fine, just let these guys do what they want, because it was just a small, low-budget, late-night show, and I think they felt like just let them do what they want. So, and I think that to a certain extent, maybe having that much control wasn't good in hindsight. We certainly got a lot out of our systems. There were a lot of things that we both felt like needed to be said, and we sort of did it through that show. And then afterwards, because we'd always said, and I think Stuart used to say this all the time, we were terrible businessmen, and I think we felt of ourselves more like artists. And I think throughout the years, though, that's maybe shifted a bit, and now, I mean, certainly Stuart, I think, is probably a better businessman than I am now. And I think certainly my views on art and whether or not magic is the art form that I thought it was have changed since then. But when you're working with a commissioner, you sort of, often since then, we found you kind of just have to have an idea and be prepared for it to change a lot.
Well, we're going to obviously go through everything, but one of the things I realised in my research is there are not many magicians who have done what you've done, and that is you've had Channel 4 shows, BBC One, you've done some stuff on ITV. Where are you guys most at home, do you think?
I don't know. I've loved and hated all the places that we've worked at, so I don't know where I feel most at home. I enjoyed being on BBC One, despite the fact that it was sort of a family show, because the exec producer on that, Karen Smith, she really liked us and really was happy for us to try and push things as far as we possibly could for that time slot. I mean, we were doing stuff where I would get my shirt completely covered in blood and sort of other disgusting things, I suppose, that probably weren't normally being shown at that time slot. In fact, we got complaints for some of the stuff we did on that, so we like to push the boundaries. But
before we go into specifics of each show that you've made and things you've done, can I ask which one you guys together are proudest of all the stuff you've done over the last sort of 12 years or so?
I loved doing the show Magick. I think that was really different. I think we made a lot of mistakes in it, though, because it was our first show. And then probably, I think some of the stuff we came up with for the BBC One Magician show, I think some of that material was the strongest material that we'd done. But I'm not really one, I don't like looking back on the stuff. I've sort of forgotten most of the stuff I've done. There's always, I could pick it away forever, just going, that could be so much better.
Yeah. Something I wanted to ask, and maybe this is me being a bit indulgent because I'm in a double act, but Strange and I in our double act, we fulfil different roles. Do you guys, are you the same as that, or do you both bring similar skills to the table, or have you identified that one of you's better at a certain thing and the other's got a weakness in that area? Can I ask that question?
Yeah, I think I don't really know the answer to that, though. I certainly think at the beginning we actually considered ourselves almost like a two-headed monster. We were two heads with one body, so we really did just think we were almost the same person. And I think we did just bring the same stuff to the table. I think over the years, though, we're probably a bit different than how we were. But I wouldn't say it's as cut and dry as Stuart brings X to the table and I bring Y. I think it really depends on what the item is or what the project is. So no, I don't think it really works like that for us.
So I'm fascinated to know about you guys, your creative process, because you have done so many really interesting different things, including actually something I watched and part of the run-up research list was your take on John Gorn's interlude illusion. It's brilliant, and it's like a fantastic routine. And also then you've created totally original magic as well. Can you describe to us a little bit your creative process? Where do you guys begin when you're, say, right, we're going to write a new show or just a new routine for television or something?
I think we don't really have a system that we would use that we think, right, this is how we do it every time. It probably varies every time. The biggest motivator in creating these routines probably is having a commission or a deadline of some kind. I think otherwise we can get a bit lazy and just think, what are we working on these items for? Once you've got a reason to be working, then it really is just spending hours and hours talking together, just thinking, how can we do this? How can we do that? What do we even want to do? So no, I don't think
not a definite system.
There's not really like here's the system we use, you can use it too, and you'll be able to create the routines.
I know you guys live in different countries now, but was there a period of time where you were, I heard rumours that you guys were really hard workers. You were meeting every morning and working every day. How do you, and you mentioned you can't do that if you don't have a project to work on. Did you?
Well, we did though. That was, we did, yeah. Every day we would meet up. It was usually sort of 10 till 6. We'd split the time. We'd either be at my house or Stuart's house, and we would just sit and work stuff out. And I think that in hindsight that might have been not a good idea, because we just there were no days off. Well, we'd take the weekend off, but then we'd be gigging at the weekends. Yeah. So I think maybe we worked too hard and maybe burnt ourselves out for a little while. And certainly I think Stuart maybe found it good when he got some time off and he worked behind the scenes on a Magick show, which maybe he will or won't be allowed to disclose what he did. And it kind of just gave us a bit of freedom to not be stuck in this routine of doing the same thing every day.
One thing I've wanted to know about you guys actually for a long time is, do you prefer performing or the coming up with ideas and the rehearsal more? Because you guys are terrific writers. So is that actually the thing that you enjoy more than the performing, or vice versa? What's your favourite thing to do?
They're so different. I mean, I do enjoy coming up with stuff, but it's a challenge. We probably come up with sort of good stuff all the time, but we'll dismiss it. We are very harsh on ourselves and what ideas we think are good enough for us to do or not. So it can be a really frustrating process, the writing and creating. The writing can be good fun. I like doing scripts. I like writing the scripts. I don't really enjoy the development stage of the tricks where you're trying to build prototypes and stuff like that. That's tough. But I do enjoy the actual minutes when you're standing doing that thing on stage. Like I enjoy that.
Yeah, that's interesting. The series Magick. I mean, magicians actually generally love the series, I seem to remember.
I think they were split at the time. I seem to remember learning that was when I discovered, do not go online and read anything about yourself ever, and I haven't done since, because for every thing that's good that's written about you, it just takes one person to say it was crap, and that removes every single good thing that's been said.
Well, I feel very privileged today, actually, that you're sitting with me doing this podcast, and that Stuart's going to do the same, because I have noticed over the last 12 years or so, actually, you guys don't really do stuff for the Magic community. You never see you guys at conventions or the Magic Circle or, doing anything really. Can I ask why you? That is a conscious decision, isn't it?
I think probably because I felt like we got stung at the beginning by the Magic community with the first show we did. I felt a bit like they didn't like us, and then I think we just never really made it a goal to impress magicians. I didn't feel like we were the kind of magicians that were doing material or routines that magicians would care for, and we were comfortable with that. We have been doing stuff more recently though for the Magic community. We sort of did our first or maybe second ever Magic festival just a few months ago in Sweden, and it was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah. After the show Magic happened in 2005, there was a show called Dirty Tricks. Channel 4 attempt at a studio magic show. There was one routine on there which has kind of stood the test of time. It gets shown on the 50 greatest magic tricks and all this kind of stuff. And this is your voices in the head routine. Yeah. Is that what it's called, by the way?
We call it the monologue, or the homunculus. The homunculus being, I think it's a Greek term for a little man, the little man that lives inside your head and who is basically controlling you.
Can you talk to us about this routine? Because I think it's some of your greatest work, actually,
thank you.
That routine.
That was probably the first thing we ever wrote, because we didn't know how to translate our TV show Magic to a stage show. And it kind of just happened. We wrote it probably in one afternoon, in one go.
Really?
And then went out and did it that night at a comedy club. It was a lot longer. It was just overwritten, and the ending wasn't quite the same. The first ending was incredibly hugely ripped off from Fight Club. It was basically Stuart put the gun in his mouth, pulled the trigger, and then I had smoke coming out of the bullet wound from my head. But yeah, I sort of don't even know how we came up with it, actually.
You don't really? You still do that routine?
We do it quite a bit, actually. It was our opener for so long that it was sort of difficult to not use it as an opener.
Yeah. On that show, of course, I had the decollete chair on it as well. Obviously, that's something you can't do everywhere else. Do you have a different ending for it normally?
Yeah, we have a different ending, which unfortunately is nowhere near as satisfying as the one that's online. We've only ever had a chance to do it with the decollete less than a handful of times.
Also, I touched on it earlier, your version of John Gorn's interlude illusion, which is done with a mobile phone in Stuart's stomach. Is it? I've got that the right way around.
Yep.
Stuart's in the thing. I'm really interested, actually, because it's one of the few times I've seen you guys kind of do a trick that exists that a magician could go and buy. What was it that attracted you to that illusion? Where did the thought process?
That was sort of an accident. That was written for the show Dirty Tricks, and it was a simple case of we had slots to fill in that show, and I think Anthony just happened to see that there was an interlude illusion for sale, and said, if you could write a routine, should we get this illusion and put it in the show? So we said, okay, we'll try and come up with something. And again, it was one of those things that we came up with it in one evening. The entire thing was just written in, I think, about an hour.
Wow.
When we used to live together in Finsbury Park. And it's changed a bit over the years. Certainly it was tweaked a bit. But it was just out of necessity of, what can we do with this weird thing? And I can't even remember at what point one of us must have said, what if it's like an X-ray machine and we want to get something out?
Yeah. And you guys toured with that for a while as well, didn't you? I remember seeing you.
Yeah, we did. We ended up buying one in the end, and we used it for a while.
Do you like the big illusions?
What do you mean? Do I like them?
Do you like illusions? Yeah, different types of magic. You guys are. I look at you guys and you're proper, like you said earlier, you're artists, okay? In terms of your work and the kind of things that you've done, the way you write. So when the kind of big box illusions, particularly stuff like that, when you can just buy it from some guy in America, do you kind of look at those a little bit like, you don't really like that kind of thing? What type of magic really connects with you?
I don't watch much magic. I sort of go through phases of really, really hating it.
Do you?
Oh yeah. Like positively, really, really hating it, and I will not watch any magic or even think about it. For a while. which can make working with Stuart difficult if I'm in one of my I hate magic phases. But yeah,
I've got to ask why. What makes you do that?
Why?
Yeah, why do you go through a phase of hating it?
I don't know why. I just sort of will all of a sudden just think this is all just absolute nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. What is this about?
Well, I'm aware because I follow you on social media that actually, like, you're a lover of classical music and things like that. That's true, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, I think I freaked you out a bit there because I know a lot about you.
Yeah.
But like, you're not the first person to be freaked out by some of my research. Don't worry. But it's, you know, like I said earlier, you're an artist and then you like very artistic things. Magic most of the time isn't, is it? Let's be honest.
A lot of magic is, I think you're right. A lot of magic is, to be fair, it's dreadful when it's performed by people who are not very good at it. And it's quite sad that there's some tricks which are very well constructed, very good tricks, but they can be performed by people who aren't very good performers. And I think that's frustrating. But I just don't find very much inspiring. A lot of magic is still to this day presented of you're either a godlike character who can do these incredible things much to the chagrin of the audiences who go, oh well, I can't do that. Oh, you must be so much better than me. So I just find it a bit annoying sometimes.
I think this is I sometimes ask this later, but actually I think this follows on nicely. Can I ask him what some of the magicians that are around today that you do like?
Yeah, like I think it'd be pretty obvious. Big fan of Penn and Teller. I still, I could watch them all the time. Darren Brown, I think he is incredible. He is probably the best performer that I've ever seen. But other than that, there's sort of no magicians that I like go, really are up there, I suppose.
Well, it's really interesting you say this because I was chatting to someone about this the other day, and I think that you're completely normal, actually, because when performers most magicians will never get to the level you're at, where you've had your own TV show and done lots of things. But there are magicians who make it their own professional career and they create their own show or something. And I think by the time you do that, you do start to hate everything because you have made your own decisions over what you like and what you don't like. And so anything that's kind of a lot different, often you sort of hate. I know so many magicians who just don't like magic because of the fact that they just know why they do what they do, sort of thing. Piff's a good example, actually. Piff doesn't like much, really, but he absolutely knows who he is and what he's doing and all the rest of it. So,
but he's made that so much part of his character that I think you almost don't know if it's real or not. It's like that kind of Jack D thing, isn't it? Of, is he really that nihilistic, or like, or is he doing this because he knows it gets a laugh?
Yeah. So let's go to your live shows, because as I said, this sort of came in reverse from a lot of other performers. Your first Edinburgh show, Alan Hudson, who was on the podcast in episode 38, he said your first Edinburgh show was the best show he's seen in Edinburgh. Unfortunately, I never saw it because I didn't go to Edinburgh till 2011. But can you tell us a little bit about that show and the premise of it?
Yeah, that show was, I think it stood out from the others because it was very bitty by sort of it wasn't really a show, it was just a bunch of stuff that we'd managed to put together over the years. So it didn't really have a through line, and it was like a sketch show, I suppose. Because it was a sketch show. There'd be character bits where I would do one bit in character and then Stuart would do a bit in character, and we were doing a version of our Magick musical, and there was very little talking to the audience as ourselves, I suppose, as Barry and Stuart. A lot of it was hidden behind sketches and things like that. But yeah, it was odd. I mean, we did really well that year at Edinburgh. I think there were a lot less magic shows at the Fringe back then. I think Pete was there, and then there were a few others, but this was a long time before. I mean, now it seems you almost could have a separate section for magic. It's just there's so many people going up.
Do you enjoy the Fringe when you were there, or?
You know what? Sort of the bits when you're actually standing on stage and doing the gigs, a lot of the time they're great, and I enjoy that, but I absolutely detest setting up for shows. I hate it. The performing conditions are by no means glamorous. If anyone's who's done Edinburgh, it's you're rushing in and set your show up in 10 minutes, and our shows were getting more elaborate every year, and those 10 minutes were just getting harder and harder. And it gets a bit like Groundhog Day. It's sort of, you forget what day of the week it is, and you're just doing the show automatically, which I felt was really dangerous. When you'd be on stage and you could actually think about other stuff on stage, you could be thinking about what you'd be doing tomorrow or what you were doing earlier on in the day, and I'm just saying these lines because they're automatic now, and that's a real shame for these people that have travelled a long way, and they're just seeing a man on stage who's a bit of a robot.
Yeah.
So I think Edinburgh is a bit tricky, which would make me worry about doing something like a Vegas run where you're doing essentially the same show.
And there's no reason to evolve it there either, because the tourists are just in and out all the time. The show in Edinburgh of yours, which I did see, which was really interesting, was the Show and Tell.
Oh yeah.
I hope I've got the year right. I think it was 2011.
I think it was, yeah. That was the last time we did it.
So the premise of this, for anyone listening who didn't see it, was you did a show in a big room, a magic show with some really interesting tricks, and then there was another show straight after, half an hour later or something, after it finished, in a smaller room where you would tell everyone how all the tricks were done. And it was up to them whether they wanted to come to the tell or not. It was called Show and Tell. First obvious question, why did you decide to do that?
I mean, obviously it was we I guess we are I don't know. Why did we decide to do that?
It's a big decision as a magician to go. I mean, first of all, let's be clear, they were your tricks and your methods.
That's
so, very important.
Yeah, we did not want to do like we did not like the mass magician because one, he was revealing other people's tricks, but the way they were revealed was very it was just like it was very detrimental to magic overall. The way Mitch Pileggi would narrate the thing, saying all it is the magician does this, and now this is just pretend. Like whenever you say this is just illusion or just sleight of hand, you go, hang on a minute, that's not just sleight of hand. That took the guy probably a year of dedicated practice. It's not just sleight of hand. So I think that annoyed us, and we wanted to celebrate the fact that magicians are geeks, and we will obsess about how to make the impossible possible, and the amount of money and time that we'll put into making something actually happen, I think needs to be seen by audiences, because there's this whole side of magic that you cannot talk about. It's like, that's why I hate having social media, because the best stuff that happens to us is stuff that would be the kind of thing you wouldn't put on social media, because it's going to expose how our tricks are done. And I think we felt like those stories needed to be told, and people needed to see what is it like as a magician. So we wrote routines which, to be fair, had deliberately complicated methods, and they were all very different to each other. So it wasn't just like this one method would basically solve how every trick was done in the show, like maybe some mentalist shows might be, for example. And it ended up being a very fruitful experience, because we came up with some tricks we probably wouldn't have come up with otherwise, just because we were trying to think of... Sometimes method came before the trick, just because we thought this will be a fun thing to expose. And some methods we still use to this day, even after exposing them. And I think it sort of proves that you can tell people the secrets and it doesn't really matter. It's sort of, it's all this information that just gets lost in the void of whatever.
How was it received, and did you receive any negative feedback from the magic community?
Do you know what? We expected to receive a lot of negative feedback from the magic community, and we would sort of joke to the press that we would receive death threats from magicians and all that, but we actually didn't. I think once magicians saw the show, they realised that we weren't revealing anything that was like anyone else was doing, and the methods were also a bit. To be fair, they were a bit silly. They were things that were really elaborate for us to set up. So it kind of just felt like actually we're doing magic a favour by making people think that magicians were a lot cleverer than you realise.
We've got to talk about the water into wine trick, which
we reluctantly exposed in that show. That was one thing we didn't really want to expose. But
I mean, that's an incredibly clever method. We won't talk about the method here, obviously, but that's exactly what I was going to ask. Was that painful to reveal that one? Because clearly you'd put an awful lot of thought and work into that one in particular.
Yeah, it was a bit. But the weird thing is, I think probably a lot of audiences have forgotten how it works. And we had magicians write to us afterwards saying, oh, how do I do this exact bit? Because we know when there's certain tiny little nuanced details that only magicians would pick up on, that if you leave out, you're screwed. Actually, you need to know all the details, or you don't really know anything. So there were a couple of tiny little things that if you don't know, you might start to make it up yourself and go, actually, hang on, I don't know how they did this now, because this doesn't really. You'll realise you don't have the full picture. And we still do the trick, and I feel like it doesn't matter to us that the secret's out there, because we never ever say to people that we are doing real magic.
The Magicians Podcast brought to you in association with the Magic Circle, the world's premier magical society. Are you ready to join the world's most exclusive magic club? Visit themagiccircle.co.uk to find out more.
Gigi-O, free for 30 days. Be a pro, get Gigi-O.
The website address you need to visit right this second is getgigio.com. If you are a working entertainer, be it magician, juggler, caricaturist, you need Gigio. It will save you hours in the office every single week by generating PDF contracts and invoices, by tracking your payments, by updating the diary on your phone automatically. You will be able to schedule emails to your clients, you will be able to look up venues easily, and it's fully integrated with PayPal too. All the top professionals are using it, and if you visit the website right now, you can take a free 30-day trial. The website again is getgigio.com. Gigio is spelled Gigio.
Whether you're new to magic or a seasoned professional, Alakazam Magic are here to help. Alakazam have been supplying magic to magicians for well over 20 years. Not only do we carry all the latest and greatest magic tricks, books and DVDs, but we also manufacture one of the finest ranges of magic tricks in the world. The Alakazam name is synonymous with great customer service, educated advice, and honesty. So if you're shopping for new magic, make sure you check out our website, www.alakazam.co.uk, or pay a visit to our fully stocked shop.
The show and tell show, you also toured nationally as well, didn't you?
We did it twice, yeah.
Yeah, and you did it as a first half, second half type thing. Well, tell us a little bit about touring nationally with your own show. And does it also give you an idea of sort of where you are in your career in terms of... Actually, one of the things I want to ask you about is numbers, really. People turning up, putting bums in seats. It's hard, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah. It's that stressful thing. You get it at Edinburgh as well, where every day you'll be calling your tour, the person organising your tour, and saying, how many have we sold tonight? Okay, good. Good if it's a sellout, or bad if it's like, what's going on here? Why have we not sold very well here?
Yeah.
Like, it's stressful, and it might just be that it's the bad area to be gigging, or the publicity wasn't very good in that particular neck of the woods. It's stressful. I mean, I don't think I enjoy the touring part of it. Once again, I enjoy the actual standing on the stage part, but setting up the show takes so long. And show and tell, we would get in and it takes us about 4 hours to set up from the van and then an hour afterwards just packing it up again, and then you're doing a show which is 2 1 hours and then with a 15-minute break, so you end up doing a full shift essentially without a break, and I think it just damaged my health, just sitting in these vehicles doing long drives, skipping meals a lot of the time, and just takes a lot out of you.
That's really interesting. A promoter friend of mine, he's a producer, promoter, he said to me that one of the most frustrating things about taking a show on tour is exactly what you've just mentioned about every venue being different. But critically, there are no patterns. So you can spend a lot of money in one area of marketing and it will work in one town, do it in a different town and it doesn't work, and that's what's so difficult about it. Let's talk about your management for a while. Are you still under Michael Vine, or is that?
No, we're no longer.
But for a long time you were, though. You worked with Michael. Now, I've heard a rumour that Michael didn't want you to do The Magicians on BBC One. Is that true? That's
true, actually, yeah. They felt like it would have been a bad career move. They'd always felt like we were, I think, an underground magic act that deserved to have an underground following. They'd said, we don't think it's a good idea for you to do, but the two of us just felt like there's probably going to be never an opportunity like this again. And I don't really know what an underground magic act is. So if you think of an underground comedian like Daniel Kitchen, for example, he is got a very strong underground following, and if he's at Edinburgh, he'll always sell out. I don't think that would work with Magick, though. I just don't think there's enough of a niche Magick orientated audience that would want to see an underground Magick act.
Right.
So I think that's a bit of a non-starter, being an underground Magick act.
So Michael sort of said, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You said, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Did that affect the relationship with Michael a little bit, that decision, or did he go, okay, fine, I'll back you with it, or?
Oh no, he once we said we were doing it, he was happy. He was, he turned up to the records and was giving us support and advice for the routine. So yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Once we decided, it was fine.
How do you feel about all the celebrity involvement on that show? It's difficult, right?
Well, I understand how it works, and that was there because that's the only way that would have been commissioned. They wouldn't have just had magicians on doing their routines without celebrities. And it varied. Some of the celebrities were dreadful to work with. They had no interest in really learning or putting in any practice to a magic trick. Because to be honest, you can't learn how to be a magician that quickly in a space of a week, just after having I think they would get 1 session or 2 sessions with us. And some celebrities didn't even turn up for the rehearsals. So we would do it on live TV, having just spoken them through it beforehand. And it probably shows in episodes because they're the celebrities that have the least involvement in the tricks, or we gave them only 1 or 2 lines just because, we don't trust you now to do this routine with us.
Did you guys, I'm interested because of the live element. I mean, it's the biggest TV station in the land, and they say it's going to be live. Did that stop you guys taking more risks on the show?
Yeah, it did. It definitely did. I think we would have done more risky material had it not been live, but when it's live, you kind of think, right, what are the tried and tested methods and effects that we actually want to do that hopefully won't mess up on live TV?
Sure. I'm sorry to say, I have to ask a tough question, and you probably know what I'm going to say. You did have a bad night night with the slicer illusion.
Yeah.
First of all, so as you know, we know some of the same people, and I've heard from multiple people. You guys were really hard on yourselves after that. Doesn't matter what anybody else said. What was immediate reaction? What do you and Stuart say to each other? After you come off after that, it all goes wrong on the telly.
I don't think there are words for it. I think we couldn't even look each other in the eye for the next sort of 20 minutes. Knowing that we're going to go back on TV and do sort of like the waving, and whilst the phone numbers are going to be saying vote for Barry Stuart. But no, I think that was certainly an experience. I should probably tell the full story because it's funny now. Like, I actually laugh at the story now because I think anyone who's a performer probably has that nightmare where you're standing on stage, all your tricks are going wrong, or you've forgotten what the words are for your thing, and you're standing naked in front of an audience. The fact that that actually happened to us is ridiculous. So as part of the routine for the slicer, the idea was we were going to say, Magick's great, but it's not very sexy. Sometimes it's romantic, but it's not very sexy, is it? So we basically just did a list-style joke, which was, how can you make Magick sexy? Well, you can, I can't remember what it was, blow wind on it, and that'll make it sexy, and then I'd stand beside a fan, and then the wind would blow, and getting anything wet will make it sexy, so someone just throws a pint of water over me. And it was just silly ways that'll make Magick sexy. And there's only one way to make this any sexier, is gratuitous nudity. And then two women come out, and they're not the nude part, it's us. They go up to us, our suits are actually tearaway suits, which I was already having a problem with, because I think it was the first time that suit was actually ready for a performance. And I realised that half the moves that we'd blocked for it were very difficult to do in a suit that basically is going to split apart the moment that you bend over too much. So if you look back at the footage, my collar is basically already come apart, and I'm now stiff as a board, thinking if I move too much, this suit will just fall off me. So those suits then get ripped off, and we're now standing wearing only socks, shoes, and pants. And because of a gag we had, which was when we turn around, you can see that on our buttocks, I have a letter B and Stuart has a letter S on his pants. Now that gag probably cost us the routine, because the slicer illusion, when you sort of pull it apart, those boxes are running on sort of train tracks.
Yeah.
And probably everyone else who does the illusion will have one assistant on one side of the box and one assistant on the other side of the box, so that when you're spinning the box round to show it on all sides, both assistants are pushing. Because we wanted to show that I had a B and Stuart had an S on our arses, it meant that I would push the box and Stuart was on the same side pulling it. That's a bad idea. And what we discovered was that we'd over-rehearsed it, and we'd done that too many times, that what had happened was Stuart had pulled it, and the train tracks that these boxes are on had kind of misaligned. He pulled it out a bit, I guess.
Well, they're the same runners that are in a filing cabinet, I think, aren't they?
Are they?
Slicer. Yeah.
And so because he'd pulled it, it had then come out of alignment, which meant that when we get to the point where you're going to put these bits back together again, that is not going to be very easy, because the train tracks essentially are no longer straight. Coupled with the fact that last minute our other trick in the show had just been switched the order, and this had happened I think a few minutes before we went live. It's like, can you do the water to wine first and then do your slicer illusion, which we thought, okay, fine, did that first, but it meant that getting into that tearaway suit took all the time from leaving the stage doing the water to wine to then getting back on stage to do the slicer segment. And what that meant was we did not set that illusion up on stage. The stagehands did. Now normally they're very good, but we do follow the sort of circus principle of always check your props yourselves before you go on. Didn't have time to do that. So, and I don't know if we did notice this either, but there's a like a holder that you put onto the blades in order to take all the blades out in one go.
Yeah.
The stagehand had set that around the wrong way. So it wasn't until we actually put that on the blades, I think this is after now, we'd put the box back together again, and already this routine was getting a bit rocky, as like, that wasn't meant to happen, was it? Then this holder thing is now the wrong way round, and it doesn't quite align with all these 13 blades or whatever it is properly. So we realised this is backwards, let's just walk around and switch it. And again, because we'd over-rehearsed it, I'd only ever taken blades out from my side, never Stuart's side. So I was essentially learning a brand new skill left-handed, whereas I'd always done it the other way. And I don't know why we didn't think of this, but we could have fixed that just by switching it around and then sticking to our allocated sides, but we didn't think of that at the time. So I was trying to get the blades out from my side, Stuart's going to get the blades out on his side, but doing it sort of a mirror image. And we were working with David Hay, the boxer, and I think he could see we were struggling. So Stuart makes some gag of, we can't get these blades out, we're working with the world's strongest man and he can't help us, which I think he took as a personal challenge. So he's now like pulling the blades as hard as possible. The whole prop looks like it's going to buckle under his strength. And then there's a point where I just give up. I just give up, and I think, this is just dead, isn't it? Like, we're clearly not going to be able to rescue this. We were already getting in trouble because the routines were overrunning every week and we were eating into national lottery time. So I just thought, this is overrunning, let's just call it. So I look over and see the host, he's ready to do his next link off camera, and I sort of give him the nod of, can you just pick up here? He looks at me and shrugs his shoulders like, what you want me to do? And I just say to, I think I just look down the barrel and say, ladies and gentlemen, what you just witnessed is death. And death is not sexy. And then amazingly, sort of behind my back, Stuart had fixed something, and it's that weird thing, because we've been working together so many years, I just sort of know from his body language if something's wrong or if something's right, and I could tell, oh, something's right now, and amazingly, it got fixed, and it's sort of, the girl came out, and it looked like we sort of got from beginning to end. And I expected it to be on Twitter, like all these people going, oh, that was an absolute disaster. But weirdly, I think a lot of people thought, was that meant to happen?
I see.
So I think we got away with it.
I guess the Slicer illusion didn't end up in the Barry and Stuart show after that run, though, or anything.
Yeah. No, we felt it was so bad, though. Like I mean, you're right, we were hard on ourselves. And I think we felt really bad just because we didn't like to think that we'd inadvertently exposed it, because, that's... whilst we go around exposing our own tricks, we have no right to go on stage and do a trick badly that we're exposing the method on TV.
I'm not sure exactly where in the timeline this happens, but this is something I know a lot of magicians are fascinated to understand about you guys, is the fact that you now live in different countries. When did Stuart move to LA? I think
should we maybe getting towards the 3-year mark, probably?
How does it work now with you guys living in different countries?
It's different now. obviously I'm not going to his house every day and he's not coming to mine every day. We still do spend a lot of time on Skype though, and it makes you realise that, to be honest, the kind of stuff we were doing, which is just the talking phase, you don't really need to be in the same room to do all that stuff, and we can collaborate on ideas and writing just through Skype, which is great. It's meant that we've had to turn down a lot of gigs that it's just not financially viable or time wise for Stuart to travel to the UK, and sometimes if a job comes up in the US, sometimes it's the same. But it's certainly different now.
Yeah. Have you found it difficult from your perspective? Obviously, Stuart moved because I think he married a girl in America, I think, didn't he? I know you're working on some other projects now solo here as well. You've been working with Keith Barry, I think, recently, haven't you?
I've been doing this. I was doing an ITV show called You're Back in the Room, which is a hypnosis game show. I worked on the first 2 seasons. I've just finished working the US version for Fox, which should go out at some point early next year or something like that.
Okay. When obviously you mentioned that obviously you guys are not able to be as busy as you used to be because of Stuart's relocation, was that difficult in the early stages when he sort of announced he was going? You sort of figuring out what to do different. I'm fascinated by double acts really when things change with them. Like, was that a difficult conversation you guys had to have when he said he was going to move to America?
Yeah, I suppose it was. I mean, because I think as a double act, you're dependent on each other. There is no Barry and Stuart without both. This would just be Stuart, and Stuart. So yeah, it's certainly different. I think it's possibly though for the best in that I think it's going to progress us to something else. I don't know what yet, but our priorities just completely shifted when there was the gap of the big 8-hour time difference and a big pond between us. So I think it's shifted the way we think about things.
You did have another TV series here as well, of course. You had The Happenings, which was on Watch a few years ago. That was a really interesting and different thing where you guys were kind of recreating paranormal activities. Where did the pitch for that come from? How did you guys sort of come up with the ideas for that show?
That was... I can't really remember exactly how it started, but certainly the exec producer on it, Matt Crook, he had wanted to do a show with us, and the channel Watch was keen to try and come up with something sort of fill the shoes of Dynamo, I think, because I know they tried The Incredible Mr. Goodwin and us, and then after us Catherine Mills, so they've tried their fair share at trying out some magic shows, and the idea was very close to what it ended up being really. It was the idea of, can we use magic to convince people that something big is happening to a small town. What we had wanted the show to be was very different to how it actually turned out, and just because we'd finished our show and tell runs, I think we were still really keen on the idea of letting audiences in on stuff, and the commissioner was hugely anti letting the audience know how anything was achieved. And some of the things we wanted to do weren't even magic tricks. That was the thing. They were just ways of developing the narrative of what was going on in the episode. And for the first 2 episodes, I think, we were actually filming all this extra footage because we still were thinking this is a show about how 2 magicians can go to a place and fool locals into believing that there's paranormal events happening in the town. But the commissioner didn't like those bits and wanted it to be more of a movie experience, so those bits just completely got removed, and then you ended up just having sort of more of a glossy, just trick thing, which to me didn't work because I didn't feel like... It's just very strange to separate. It almost ended up being too much like our first show, Magick, where how are the audience meant to know what are your tricks and what are just sort of special effects you're showing for fun and for just the packaging of the show. So, I don't know. There's some things in that show which I sort of really cringe when I think about them because they're not things that I'm particularly proud of. And there's other things, though, because of the format, that we probably wouldn't have written. So, some good things came out of it as well.
So, I mean, when it goes out, and as you just mentioned, there's bits of it you're not happy with, and then obviously it wasn't recommissioned as a second series. Do you blame someone for that? Or do you get angry, or do you just take it on the chin? How do you do it?
I don't know, you go through all those phases. There's probably some kind of grieving process of finishing a show, whatever the stages are. There's probably a denial stage, and then a excitement stage, and then a regret stage. I don't know what they all are, but yeah, you certainly go through it when you've had a show, and then you're in that waiting stage of, is this going to come back? Do I even like the show I've just made?
Yeah.
Am I happy to sort of do interviews back to back, going, this show is this and that and this, when thinking, I wish it was something else.
So it is very exciting because we're all going to see you on our TV screens again a little bit later this year. And you're on the ITV1 show The Next Great Magician.
Yeah.
I'm surprised a little bit you're on this show, and I wonder whether your arm has been pulled a little bit by Andrew O'Connor, the exec producer. Is that fair to take that guess? Doesn't seem like something you guys would normally do.
A little bit, but the show, it sounds like it might be like a Britain's Got Talent kind of thing, but AOC assured us that it isn't, and I think the final product, you can see that it's not like a Britain's Got Talent. It's not people just showing what they've got and then everyone just tears them apart or says, oh, you're very good, you're a very special individual, and it's not set up with packages saying, oh, I am, I've got cancer and this magic has helped save me and whatever. So it's you haven't got the sob story stuff, and it actually is a celebration of good magicians doing good tricks.
Yeah. It's the end of the series of the Magicians podcast. I'm looking for a big scoop. Did you win the show? Are you the next great magician? Magicians.
I'm afraid there's been a document signed that says that even if I knew the answer to that, I'd not be allowed to say.
There's been no scoops this series. I've had nothing. Not a thing. Never mind. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to do on the show, though? Can you tell us can you give us a little teaser, perhaps, of what you guys are going to do?
Yeah, so the trick that we do is probably it's my new favourite trick, actually. It's the latest thing we've just come up with, and without giving away too much what the trick is, because I think it's more fun just to watch it and be surprised. It's like a combination of the sands of India and the magic kettle, if someone turned up to a gig and didn't remember that they're props.
Okay, well listen, you're a wrestling fan, I'm a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
I'm going to level you. I'm a broadcast journalist. Bobby Heenan reference, you remember him?
Yeah.
Hero, right? I've seen this trick. I've seen what you do. And it is better than what you've just said. This is unbelievable, Barry. Yes, so remember Paul Daniels' Magic Kettle? It's that without a kettle, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
How on earth did you guys come up with this? I have no idea how it's done. The method, I got no idea. Because there's no props.
The method came first. That's sort of another thing where method comes first, and then we think, what's the trick we can do with this?
You're not going to be telling anyone how this one's done, though, are you?
Not right now, no. But weirdly, we were coming. I was visiting Stuart in LA for a bit, and accidentally we just said, "Oh, what if you do this?" And then realised there's a trick here, and the final routine is nothing like what we first came up with. It's sort of.
Well, it's not just me. I also know that Andy Nyman, it blew his mind as well when he.
Yeah, that's true. Both Andy Nyman and Andrew were instrumental in turning sort of the seed of our idea into something a lot better than what it now is. It still really felt like our work in progress until those two minds helped absolutely shape it into what it is now.
Well, I predict once people will see this trick, I think you're going to be doing this trick for the rest of your lives, actually. Because it's that good and that amazing.
Annoyingly, it's the most annoying thing to do, though. and like I said, I always hate setting up stuff. And anyone who's worked with liquids will know that this is such a pain. So. Well,
I've heard a lot about The Next Great Magician because I've been asking everybody about it. And, I've heard this is the best trick in the series, actually. So everyone at home should be very excited to see this. Don't miss Barry and Stuart's trick on Next Great Magician. I've got a question I want to ask you. And feel free to have a think about the answer to this before you want to, because it's quite a deep question. Why do you think you guys have lasted as a double act for nearly 15 years? Do you guys have a secret of why you're ultimately it's a relationship when you're in a double act? Is there anything you think that's really allowed it to last and work as long as it has?
I think we've been incredibly lucky in that we've always had opportunities to keep working. And that probably is it. I mean, I think if we went through however number of months or whatever with just no work coming in, then maybe that would have been the thing that makes us go, this isn't working for us, let's call it a day. But there's always been something that's just on the horizon. Like even right now, there's still a few things which we're always so close to doing like the next thing that I think that's what probably keeps us going.
Can we play word association?
Okay.
Penn Teller.
Heroes.
Michael Vine.
Hilarious.
Steve Wyrick.
I knew this one was coming because it's the podcast. So I'm just
this is the last 2 episodes of the series, so this will be the last time you hear Steve Wyrick's name on this podcast, I assure you.
The Magician's Podcast. That's all I think of now is Steve Wyrick.
Andrew O'Connor.
Is this one word, or is it kind of just sort of stream of consciousness?
One word about O'Connor would probably be a rude word, wouldn't it? So...
No, I think the first word that pops in my head is passionate, and I think that's... I envy his passion because he is just so passionate about everything he does and so decisive. Whatever the problems are in a routine or a concept, he always will nitpick it right, get right to the core of what it is, and then make a decision of just, well, it's just this, isn't it? If it's either A or B, he seems to just know which one it is.
Pete Furman.
Underrated.
Stuart.
Yeah. Wow. How do I sum this up? I should have anticipated that you would have asked me this one. I guess brother.
Oh, that's cool. What do you think is the biggest problem with Magick today, and how can it be fixed?
So again, I knew this question would be asked, so I've had a chance to think about my answer, and I don't know if there's a problem with Magick, but the things that annoy me about Magick would be, it annoys me that quite often Magick just becomes all about the tricks, and it's just about how good or bad a trick is, and I was worried even with the next Great Magician show that too much emphasis would be put on just, is the trick any good or is it bad? And I feel like Magick should be about the whole package. I think even a bad trick can be made entertaining by an entertaining performer, and I wish that more audiences were able to watch a magician, and then when they go and tell someone about what they've seen, they will remember more than just the actual trick. So I guess that's a problem and there's no fix other than educating audiences.
But don't worry, you got a free Krispy Kreme donut, so we don't have to
I know.
worry too much about the fact that we can't fix that problem.
Yeah.
Sincerely, I really meant what I said earlier. I'm really privileged that you guys have agreed to do this, because I know you do so little for the Magick community, so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
I've absolutely loved this podcast, and go straight to the next one now. It's an hour with Stuart. Thanks so much.
I'm going to put a footnote to this.
Okay, go for it.
Because I feel like anyone who's probably listened to me rant for an hour might think that I am incredibly negative, and I think I am, but maybe next week I'll be incredibly positive. It just depends which week you catch me in. And I am not ungrateful for anything that I've done and any of the opportunities I've been given, so I hope that doesn't come across.
No, I don't think it did at all, actually. I think it's also, I think what's very clear to me is that everything you guys have had, yes, okay, grateful, fine, but actually you fully deserve it, because, like I said, you're great magicians, great writers, and you had an incredible work ethic, so I don't think anyone would ever think you were lucky or ungrateful,
I think it's just when you're passionate about something, it can be just it's hard to see sort of sometimes. I guess Magic's your baby, isn't it? And to see other people do it badly can be really annoying.
Yeah.
And to see other people do it well is wonderful. So it's a tough thing though. When you sort of love something so much, you can also hate it too.
Yeah.
So that's my footnote to this, so that in hindsight, things that I'm saying make sense.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Barry. It's been great chatting to you.
You too.
Cheers. I absolutely loved this episode. I've wanted to talk to that man for a very, very long time. I am a huge Barry and Stuart fan, and it was a great privilege to sit and talk to you, Mr. Barry Jones. Thanks for doing it. I recommend you follow him on Twitter. He has his own personal Twitter, as well as obviously the Barry and Stuart one. His personal Twitter is @itsbarryjones. He also has the same username on Instagram, It's Barry Jones. His Instagram, I think, is a real insight into the real Barry Jones. Go there, take a look at it, and give him a follow. There's one other man I've always wanted to speak to. His name is Stuart McLeod, and I'm going to do it right now. Go back to the feed and download episode 71. We're going to hop across the Atlantic Ocean and talk to him in Los Angeles. I will see you there in a few seconds. Bye-bye for now.